早めにやっちまった方がいい。
そうか。
百七観音一の手。
Yo, what's up guys? Toby from MasterBok Show, and I hope you're having an amazing day. What do you guys say about becoming one of the most powerful fighting class in the game, obliterating your opponent's health bars in a single attack, dishing out disgusting amount of necrotic damage in a single turn, gliding through the battlefield and able to attack 6 to 8 times, being a literal god of destruction? If you're into becoming a CC monster of your team, able to move from enemy to enemy using your fist, this is the build for you. I'm gonna be running you down through the build from level 1s to 12, but this build can shine from early game until the mid game and become a total monster in the late game. This build is actually inspired by the series of people who commented on a previous video, and I hope you enjoy. Without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, here we are now guys in our character creation screen. This is where we will be building the foundation of our god of destruction, our Asura, and we are just going to be selecting from 2 of the most interesting races for the build. I'm talking about the half-elf and the elf. The elf and the half-elf almost has the same race features, base racial speed, dark vision, and fey ancestry for advantages in charmed and sleep. And the only difference for that is while the elf has elven weapon training, which give us proficiency from longsword, short bow, and longbow, the half-elf has civil militia, which gives proficiency for melee weapons such as spears, pikes, halberds, and glaives, and armor proficiency for light armor and shield. For these 2 races, I highly advise you just get either of those, because we are eyeing on a subclass Wood Elf, which gives us a subclass Reacher Fleet of Foot that's gonna be giving us additional move speed. It is also the same for the half-elf, which we are just gonna be selecting with the Wood half-elf with the same subclass feature. For the classes, we're gonna be starting off with something interesting in the form of the Druid. The Druid is a really interesting base class. Aside from giving us armor proficiency with light armor and medium armor as well as shield, it also gives us a really interesting cantrips in the early game. Speaking of cantrip, I highly advise you just sticking with the cantrips that are already for the Druid. For the background, we're gonna be selecting from 2 of the most interesting backgrounds for the build, which is the Acolyte and the Guild Artisan. For the Artisan, we're going to be getting skill proficiencies in Insight and Persuasion, and for the Acolyte, we're going to be getting Insight and Religion. If you're just going to be more of becoming the DPS of the team, I highly advise you just going for the Acolyte. For the abilities in the early game, I highly advise you just prioritizing strength and wisdom, because we are going to be introducing another class later on for the build. And for the strength, because we are doing a lot of melee attacks and we are going to be needing a lot of physical damage. And don't forget to be adding a little bit of dexterity and constitution for tankiness. But for the late game, we are going to be dropping strength and constitution and focusing more on dexterity and wisdom, because we are going to be unlocking a few other endgame items for the build. But for starters, while you are progressing through the game, I highly advise this setup. After character creation and reaching level 2, we are now gonna be unlocking a really interesting subclass, which is the foundation of our Asura in a form of a Circle of Spores. In Circle of Spores, we just unlock our subclass feature, which is Wild Shape, giving us the chance to change into different sort of animals that we prefer to move in. We don't actually care about that because the really important thing for this subclass is the symbiotic entity. Symbiotic entity gives you 8 temporary hit points and adds additional 1 to 6 necrotic damage while you have them. For as long as you have symbiotic entity active, you're gonna be getting additional 1 to 6 necrotic damage until long rest. As early as level 3, this is gonna start to be really interesting because we are gonna be introducing a new class to the mix for our Asura, which is the Monk. The Monk is gonna be the next foundation class that we need for our Asura. For this level, we just unlock Fury of Blows, which gives us the opportunity to attack twice in quick succession, as well as an armor defense, but we will not be utilizing an armor defense for this build. For level 4, still sticking in our Monk class, we just unlock new class feature, which is an armored movement, as well as the key, Step of the Wind Dash, and Step of the Wind Disengage. Really straightforward, guys. We are still gonna be following the Monk class. For level 5, still sticking in the Monk class, we are now gonna be unlocking our new subclass, which is the second foundation of our Asura in a form of a Way of the Open Hand. For level 6, still focusing on the Monk class, we just unlock one of the most important feat for our Asura in a form of Tavern Brawler. Is really interesting. Whenever we attack with an unarmed strike, our strength modifier is going to be added. Level 7, still focusing on our Monk class, we just unlocked a really interesting class feature, which is the extra attack. This will give us an opportunity to attack twice in a single turn, as well as additional key and unlocking actions such as stunning strikes, melee, and unarmed. For level 8, this is where our Asura is born. Still focusing on the Monk class because we just unlock a class feature, which is the Key Empowered Strikes, which makes our unarmed attack count as magical damage, and also subclass feature giving us additional necrotic, psychic, and radiant damage, and one of the most interesting action for the Monk, which is the Wholeness of Body. Aside from giving us half the key points that we lost, we also get the temporary State of Wholeness, which gives us the opportunity to have an extra bonus action for 3 turns. For level 9, this is where it's gonna be really interesting because we are not just gonna be double classing, we are triple classing for the Rogue class because we are eyeing on unlocking a really interesting subclass in our next levels. For level 10, we now get additional actions for the Rogue, which are the Cunning Action Hide, Dash, and as well as Engage. For level 11, we are still gonna be sticking to the Rogue class, and we just unlock a subclass feature for our Asura in the form of the Thief. The Thief is going to give us the subclass feature Fast Hands to give us additional bonus actions on top of our already existing additional bonus action. And finally, level 12. This is the level that we will be rounding out the stats of our Asura in a form of focusing on the Rogue. We are just gonna be moving into our ability improvement and get more stats for our Wisdom. Whenever you have the chance to get the additional 1 point reward from the Witch quest in Act 1, that'll be making your Wisdom to 20. Whenever you get the chance to acquire the Gauntlet of Strength, which pushes your strength to 23, you can respec and put your ability points into Dexterity, Constitution, and Wisdom respectively. Alright, I'm now gonna be showing you guys the item setup for the build. I'm gonna be showcasing 2 builds for you guys today. This is for the early game setup and as well as the late game setup. For the early game setup, I highly advise 3 items that are really interesting for the build, starting with the Lifebringer. The Lifebringer is really interesting for this build, especially if you're playing in the early game, because it gives you Life Charger. When the wearer gains lightning charges, they also gain 3 temporary hit points. You can get the Lifebringer in an NPC in the Underdark. Around the Mushroom Colony, you can just buy it from this NPC. Next up is the Protective Sparks Wall. It gives you a really interesting passive, Sparks Wall Armor, which the wearer has +1 bonus AC and saving throws as long as they have lightning charges. You can get the Protective Sparks Wall in the Underdark around the dock area. It's located around a narrow passage with a lot of traps. You can just use knock to unlock the gate, and you can get this from a gilded chest. And finally, we are going to be getting the Sparks Hands. It's going to be giving you conductive strikes. On hit with an unarmed attack, you will be gaining 2 additional lightning charges. As a bonus option, you can also get the Speedy Light Feet, which is going to give you the passive Speed Sparks. So whenever the wearer tries to dash or takes a similar action during combat, you are going to be getting additional 3 lightning charges. For the second build, this is going to be focusing more on the end game content around Act 3. I highly advise you getting 4 items for the build to make the ultimate destroyer Asura. So for this, I'm going to be starting with the Horn of Berserker. It's going to be giving us the passive Bloodthirst. Whenever you do an unarmed or melee attack, you are going to be dealing 2 necrotic damage as long as you don't have full health. You can get the Horn of Berserker from a shopkeeper in the Wyvern Crossing. It's just around that area. You can just buy it from him directly. Next up is the Boots of Koshigo. It's going to be giving you the passive of Experienced and Deadly. The wearer deals additional damage equal to their Wisdom modifier when doing an armed attack. Third is the Gauntlet of Hill Giant Strength. This is a very good item for our destroyer Asura because it's going to be setting our strength to 23, giving us the opportunity to dump our strength to 8 and just focus on other points of our abilities. You can get the Gauntlets of Hill Giant Strength in a really interesting side quest regarding my favorite character in Baldur's Gate 3, Raphael. You just need to follow the quest line House of Hope. As well as for the other item is the Amulet of Greater Health. This is going to be setting your constitution to 23 and gonna give you advantage to constitution saving throws. This is also located in an interesting site in the House of Hope. So whenever you can, guys, you can actually reduce the HP of our Asura a little bit for us to activate our Berserker helmet. Now we just got damage from our companion. This will give us 2 additional necrotic damage for as long as our health is not 100%. And after that, we will be using Symbiotic Entity. That's going to be giving us additional 1 to 6 necrotic damage on top of our Berserker helmet. Hey guys, I'm now going to be showing you actual gameplay on how we use our Asura. So whenever we start a fight, we are always going to be using Fear of Blows Topple to prone enemies and take them down. Now the enemy just got obliterated in a single attack. Next up is we're still going to be using Fear of Blows Topple to take down this enemy. And now he just got proned and we're going to be finishing this enemy off. Now we're going to be moving to another target. Just got a miss. Now we're going to be using Fear of Blows Topple again. Now we got prone again. Now we're going to be finishing it off. Now we are going to be using our Asura again. And again, guys, if ever you have the chance, you start the battle using Wholeness of Body. That's going to be giving us a chance to replenish our ki, as well as giving us bonus extra actions. So we're going to be using Fear Topples again. And going to be doing it again. And just going to be moving away from the enemy. And that's it, guys. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the build and see how powerful this destroyer Asura can be. It can obliterate your opponents in a single turn. and dish out disgusting amount necrotic damage. If you guys like my build series, please consider hitting that like button. It really lets me know, guys, that you enjoy this sort of content. Have any questions or clarification, you can just comment down below. Or if you want to share any sort of build that are really interesting to be featured in a future video, you can also share it. And again, guys, I hope I earn your subscription in the future. But if I earn it today, please consider that subscribe button. It really helps me a lot and help the channel grow. And that's it for me. And I hope to see you soon on the next MasterBok show. Peace out. Bye, guys.